I worked there for 15 years, living honestly, but my wife went blind. I was accused of taking a 2 million yuan bribe. After a 3-month investigation found nothing, my boss apologized. I said nothing and went home. Seeing my daughter, I thought of my wife's coldness and her frequent visitor, that cousin. The next day, I took my daughter and left. When the hospital's appraisal report came out, my hands were trembling. Team leader Wang from the discipline inspection group. She held my hand. Her hand was dry and warm.
Section Chief Zhao, you've been wronged.
I looked at her silently. A document sat on the table with bold red and black text. It was the final report on the false claim that Zhao Yi took a 2 million bribe. Months. For 92 days, I spent every day in a room less than 10 square meters, eating 3 meals a day there. Fed twice daily, I was questioned on every transaction. I repeated my story constantly. I denied everything, and they finally seemed to believe me. Today, it's over. Team leader Wang escorted me out.
I've already spoken with Director Zhang at your workplace. He said they'll hold a small meeting to restore your reputation.
I nodded.
Go home and rest. Your wife's had it hard too.
I looked at him. He looked embarrassed. Yes, my wife Zhou Rui reported me under her real name for the sake of justice. She said there was a 2 million yuan slip in my nightstand's false bottom. Jiqian's people went and pried open the compartment, but it was empty. There was nothing inside. Zhou Rui saw Jiqian's team. They questioned me. I simply denied it. Now I am cleared. Leader Wang patted my shoulder and left. I stood in the sunlight, dazzled. My phone vibrated. It was Director Zhang.
Where is Zhao Yi? Tonight we'll have a welcome dinner for you.
No need, Director. I just want to go home. Silence followed on the other end.
All right. Your wife must be waiting for you too. Don't worry. I'll take care of everything at work for you.
I hung up the phone and went home, to the workplace where I hadn't made a mistake in 15 years. This incident made me the talk of the town. I couldn't return to my home of 12 years either. I hailed a taxi, and as it moved, tree shadows slid past the window. My mind was blank until we stopped. I paid and entered the building. I unlocked the door and stepped in. After swapping my shoes, I saw Zhou Rui flying a model plane with his daughter, Wan An. An kicked her legs on the sofa as her brother laughed. He froze when he saw me.
Dad.
His voice was very soft with a timid tone. For 3 months, he had been angry with me. Zhou Rui put down the model and stood up.
You're back.
I looked at him. He seemed thinner, as if he had suffered some great grievance. I responded and walked over to sit by the sofa. Annan peeked out from behind him, secretly glancing at me. Her face was rosy and adorable. I used to love pinching her cheeks the most. But now looking at that face, my heart feels cold.
Have some water.
He handed me a glass of water, but I didn't take it. When did you find out I was coming back?
Group leader Wang called me this morning.
Oh, the living room was very quiet. The TV was on, but muted. There was a fruit platter on the table, and the grapes looked very fresh. Suddenly, I remembered something. The day I was taken away was a Wednesday. That afternoon, my cousin from work, Sun Peng, said he was coming over for dinner. He was my senior in college, and later worked in the same system. His parents and mine were old friends, so Zhou Rui called him cousin. He's not married, and always liked to come over for meals. After I was taken away, did he come by? Has Sun Peng been here recently? Zhou Rui's body stiffened slightly, very subtly, but I noticed it.
Not at all. After what happened, how dare he come?
She looked away. I said nothing, turned off the TV, and stood up. I'm tired, going to bed.
Dinner's ready. Aren't you going to eat something?
No, I pushed open the bedroom door. The bed was neatly made, just as I'd left it before I went away. The professional books I'd placed on the nightstand had been replaced by a few fashion magazines. I pulled open the nightstand drawer. Inside were my watch and wallet. The divider had already been pried open, leaving an ugly gap. I reached in and felt around. Empty. Zhou Rui stood at the doorway, at a loss for what to do.
Let me explain. I wasn't thinking straight that day.
I turned around and looked at her. She was crying, tears falling one by one.
The pressure was overwhelming. I feared being accused of taking the money and eventually getting caught, so I thought confessing first might count in my favor.
The lies she told didn't match any of the 100 possibilities I'd considered during the investigation. Those reasons were ridiculous. I watched her cry, feeling nothing. 15 years of marriage. I thought I knew her well. Now I realized I knew nothing at all. I looked at her, then past her, at my daughter Annan peeking into the living room. Annan was 5 years old. She looked like Zhou Rui, especially her eyes. Everyone used to say Annan was a combination of the two of us. Eyes like her mother, nose like her father. I looked at Annan's nose. It was small and perky, a little like mine. A crazy thought crawled into my head. Once it came out, I couldn't suppress it anymore. It was like sulfuric acid, burning away the last bit of warmth in my heart. I left. When I got to Zhou Rui, he was still crying. Stop crying, I said calmly. He stared at me blankly. Tomorrow we'll take Annan to the hospital. Annan is sick, he's very nervous. He's not sick, I said, looking into his eyes. Let's go get a checkup. The next morning, I woke up at 6. Zhou Rui was still sleeping beside me, his brow furrowed, seemingly restless. I looked at him for a while, then got up and washed. The man in the mirror was thinner, emaciated, and his eyes were unfamiliar. I shaved and changed my clothes. At 7, I knocked on Anand's door. Anand was awake. There was no sound from inside. I pushed the door open and went in. Anand was sleeping in a Winnie the Pooh blanket, only his head was showing. I woke him up. He rubbed his eyes and was a little scared when he saw it was me. Daddy, get up. Daddy will take you out to play.
Where are we going to play?
We're going to get blood tests. Anand paled.
No blood test, I'm scared it'll hurt.
He threw a tantrum on the bed. Luo Rue woke up and rushed into the room.
What are you doing? Why go crazy this early?
He held Anand in his arms and glared at me.
Anand is afraid of injections. Don't you know that? Why does the checkup have to be today?
I looked at her protecting the child, like an angry mother hen. We have to go today. The two of us faced off, with Anand between us, looking at me, then at her, and suddenly burst into tears.
I hate going to the hospital or getting blood drawn.
Joe Rue held and comforted her while glaring at me.
Which checkup do you want?
A routine physical. I haven't been back for so long. Can't I care about my daughter's health? This reason was flawless. Joe Rue bit her lip, unable to say a word. I walked over and pulled Anand out of her arms. Anand cried even harder. Either I take her, or the three of us go together. Your choice. She stared at me intently, and after a few seconds, she gave in.
I'll go change my clothes.
On the way to the hospital, the atmosphere in the car was tense. Joe Rue comforted a sobbing Anand in the back, promising her the biggest ice cream after the checkup. In the mirror, they looked like a perfect mother and daughter. Without yesterday's realization, I might have softened, but now I felt only turmoil. At the hospital, I went straight to register for a paternity test. When Joe Rue saw the Judicial Appraisal Center sign, her expression changed.
Zhou Yi, you.
His voice was trembling. I ignored him and pulled Anand inside.
I don't want to go in. There are only bad people in here.
Joe Rue caught up and grabbed my arm.
Zhou Yi, what do you mean? Are you doubting Anand?
His voice wasn't loud, but it was sharp. People in the corridor looked over. I shook off his hand. You have a guilty conscience? I asked coldly. His face turned pale.
How could you? Anand is your daughter, your own blood. Since I reported you, you're taking revenge by insulting us like this?
I watched her act. I used to give in, but now I'm just disgusted. The truth will come out. I took Anand's hand, ignored her, and a nurse walked over.
Excuse me, are you here for a paternity test? Both adult and child need blood tests.
Hearing blood draw, Anand fought back. Joe Rue tried to grab her, but I held her still. They took my blood first. I felt nothing. Then, two nurses held a screaming Anand. Mom, I hate you. Save me, she cried. Joe Rue stood by, weeping and cursing me.
Zhao Yi, you're not human. You'll regret this.
I looked at the tube of blood from Anand's arm and felt empty inside. After the blood draw and finishing the paperwork,
Results are ready in a week. Collect them in person or get them by mail.
I went to get them. Leaving the center, Joe Rue held crying Anand and glared at me like an enemy.
Zhao Yi, we're finished.
Let's wait for the results to talk. I headed to the car and he followed. At home, he put Anand down and stormed into the study. I sat at the computer researching lawyers.
You have to give me an explanation.
He slammed the door and yelled at me.
Why did you do this? Who's been talking behind my back to you? Was it Sun Peng?
He actually mentioned Sun Peng first, which surprised me a little. I looked up at him. You think it was him?
If it wasn't him, then who? Who else would come to our house? He must have said something to you.
It was as if he had grabbed onto a lifeline.
Zhao Yi, don't believe him. He's just a petty person. He's never liked me from the start.
Looking at her, I suddenly found it ridiculous. I was inside for 92 days, and not once did my wife consider what I was going through. My cousin didn't make a single call, and now she wants to shift the blame onto herself. I followed her lead and asked, what did she say to me? She was stunned.
She must have badmouthed me, saying I had an affair with another man.
I stayed silent as her face turned pale.
Zhao Yi, you can't think of me like this. We've been married for 15 years. Don't you know what kind of person I am?
I thought I knew. I said, I'm turning off the computer. Until the results are in, we sleep apart. I left the study. Take the master bedroom. I'll take the guest room. She stood there shaking.
What if the results prove that An'an is your daughter, Zhao Yi? What will you do then? How will you end this?
I stopped in my tracks. If she is, I'll get down on my knees and apologize to you. I opened the door to the guest room and went in. As the door closed, I heard her let out a desperate wail outside. The 7 days waiting for the results felt like a century. Joe Rui and I lived under the same roof, but were like strangers. We didn't speak. Meals marked the end of work for her. She would sit down, eat, and leave. I staggered my meal times with Joe Rui. Anand seemed to sense something too. She stopped being noisy and spent most of her time alone in her room. Sometimes, when I passed by her door, I could hear her talking to her dolls.
My parents are ignoring me.
My heart felt like it had been pricked by a needle, but I didn't stop. For the past 7 days, I'd spent most of my time in the guest room, going through all the photo albums from the past 12 years. I looked at each picture, one by one, as Anand grew from a baby in a fortress into a beautiful little girl. I found photos of myself as a child and compared them. There wasn't a single resemblance. Then I found photos of Jo Rui. Anand's eyebrows, eyes, mouth, and face shape were almost a carbon copy. I also found photos of Sun Peng, my senior from university. We had many photos together. I placed Anand's photo next to Sun Peng's. That pert nose, that slight upturn of his lips when he smiled. It was exactly the same. My heart sank little by little. I started to recall every time Sun Peng came to our house. He always came on Friday nights, bringing fruit or toys, saying they were for Anand. Whenever he came, Jo Rui was especially happy and would personally cook a table full of his favorite dishes. The three of us would always have endless things to talk about at the dinner table. The conversation started with the death of a college student and then drifted to gossip at work. I would occasionally chime in with a comment and they would brush it off before returning to their own topics. I used to think I was overthinking things. I thought it was normal for them to be close, like cousins. I was busy with work and under a lot of pressure, so I didn't like to talk much. It was good that Sun Peng could keep Jo Rui company. I was such a fool. I remembered the day Anand was born 5 years ago. I was pacing anxiously outside the delivery room, and Sun Peng was there too. He said he just happened to be passing by the hospital and heard that Jo Rui had given birth, so he came to see. When the nurse brought the baby out, I was the first to rush over, and Sun Peng followed behind me. The light in his eyes when he looked at Anand in the cradle was brighter than my own father's. "Congratulations, Junior. Your daughter is so beautiful," he said, looking at Anand the whole time, without even glancing at me. I also remember once when I left work early and opened the door, I saw Sun Peng and Jo Rui on the sofa, very close together. Jo Rui was crying, and Sun Peng had his arm around his shoulder, comforting him. When they saw me, they jumped away like they'd been electrocuted.
He said the Korean drama was just too touching.
Yeah, women just love to cry. I believed it. This fool believed it again and again. That 2 million yuan report, it had to be them. Only those two could come up with such a vicious scheme. They thought that once I was in, I'd never get out, and then my house, my savings, my social status would all naturally become theirs. They wouldn't even have to get divorced. The wife of a criminal, living with her uncle's son and his cousin. What a touching story. I put away all the photos, picked up my phone, and called a friend who works as a private detective to help me look into someone. Who? Sun Peng and my wife, Jo Rui. What do you want to check? Everything from their hotel records over the past 5 years to their financial transactions. Everything. Are you sure? I'm sure. Okay, I'll get back to you in 3 days. After hanging up the phone, I felt cold all over. The 7th day arrived, the day to pick up the report. I took leave from work, and as I was about to leave, Jo Rui was blocking the doorway. He had already changed his clothes too.
I'll go with you.
No need.
I have to go. I want to see the results with my own eyes.
He was very agitated, as if he was certain the results would be what he wanted. Maybe he thought that as long as he acted confident enough, he could change the facts. I didn't refuse again. We said nothing the whole way to the appraisal center. I gave my name and the staff handed me a manila envelope. The envelope was very thin, but it felt heavy. It was so heavy that I almost couldn't hold it steady. Jo Rui tried to grab it, but I dodged. My fingertips were icy as I clutched the envelope, my hands shaking uncontrollably. Jo Rui noticed too.
Xiaoyi, if you regret this, let's head back. Apologize to me and our daughter, and I'll pretend this never happened.
I ignored him and with trembling hands tore open the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper. I pulled it out and my eyes went straight to the conclusion at the bottom. That line of black song typeface was like a red-hot knife stabbing into my eyes. According to the DNA analysis, Zhao Yi is excluded as Zhao Anand's biological father. Excluded. My mind buzzed and went completely blank. The world went silent. I couldn't hear what Jo Rui was saying, nor could I feel my own heartbeat. It was as if I had been hollowed out. Like a soulless puppet, I stood there, staring at that piece of paper. I don't know how much time passed, and then Jo Rui's. Only then did his voice pierce into my ears. It sounded like he was screaming.
This is impossible. It's fake. You forged it.
He rushed to the counter, slapping the table and yelling at the staff. I slowly folded the report, put it back in the envelope, and then tucked it inside my jacket. My pocket pressed against my chest, right there. It used to feel warm, but now that piece of paper made it as cold as iron. I turned around. Jo Rui was still making a scene, acting like a madman. I walked over and grabbed her arm.
Zhao Yi, this is fake. You have to believe me. There must be some mistake.
When I got home, I only said 2 words. My voice was very calm, so calm it didn't even sound like me. I pulled her along and walked out. She wasn't as strong as I was, so I dragged her all the way out of the hospital and shoved her into the car. I started the engine and drove off. She was still crying in the passenger seat, still saying it was impossible.
Zhao Yi, you have to believe me. You're the only man I've ever had.
6,000 every month, paid quarterly, and the first time you paid 36,000. These are all part of the information my detective friend sent me. Every single transaction is clearly recorded. There was nothing left in Zhou Rui's eyes but fear. He looked at me as if he were looking at a demon.
You investigated me.
You reported me under your real name. You should have expected this day when you did that. My phone vibrated and I picked it up. It was an encrypted file sent by that friend of mine. A compressed file. The title was Everything You Wanted. I answered the call.
I've sent you the stuff, godson. This evidence will make that couple suffer. Hotel and bank records, plus WeChat screenshots I recovered. It even includes their plan to frame you. See for yourself.
Thanks for your effort. I hung up the phone and turned the screen toward Zhou Rui to show him that file. He couldn't make out the contents, but he understood the title. His psychological defenses completely collapsed.
Zhao Yi, I was wrong. I really was wrong. Please forgive me this time. Let's go home, okay? Let's not get divorced. Look, for Annan's sake, he can't be without a father.
Me. He took the paternity test report out of his pocket, unfolded it, and placed it in front of him. Lowering his head, he looked at the line that stated Zhao Yi was Zhao An'an's biological father. His sobbing stopped abruptly, as if someone had grabbed him by the throat. The car was deathly silent. At that moment, a black Audi A6 drove into the parking lot and stopped not far away. The car door opened. Sun Peng. He got out of the driver's seat, dressed in casual clothes and carrying several supermarket groceries. With vegetables and meat, he was humming. He parked, looked up, and glanced at Building 15's window with a smile. With a warm, homely smile, the kind you have when you're coming home. That direction was exactly where room 1103 was. Zhou Rui also saw him. He watched the man, looked at the grocery bags in his hands, and saw the satisfied smile on his face. In the end, he buried his head in his knees. He let out a beast-like, deeply suppressed growl. I drove back home. On the way, Zhou Rui didn't say another word. He just stayed curled up like that. She sat in the passenger seat like a soulless rag doll. When we got home, I parked the car, and she didn't move to get out. She followed me into the building. We entered the elevator, exited the elevator, and I unlocked the door with my key. Annan heard it. Hearing it, she ran out, calling for her mom, and lunged at Zhou Rui. Zhou Rui stiffened and dodged. Annan missed and stood stunned, looking confused and hurt. She looked at Zhou Rui, then at me, before retreating to her room and shutting the door. I walked into the living room and sat down. Sit down. Zhou Rui stiffly sat opposite me. I didn't go to the study to get my laptop. Instead, I turned on the smart TV in the living room. I cast the content from my phone onto the huge TV screen. The first chapter was that DNA identification report. Black letters on white paper, the conclusion clear. Let's talk about this first. Annan is not my daughter, so after the divorce, her custody will go to you. No child support and no visitation needed. Zhou Rui swayed silently. I pressed on, scrolling down to a table on the screen, my prepared asset list. Second, the property. This 180 square meter apartment I bought in full pre-marriage. The deed is in my name, making it a premarital asset. You get nothing. The $500,000 car is in my name. The money used was also from my premarital savings, so it is likewise considered premarital property. You have no share in it. Our savings belong to whoever's name they're under. I checked your accounts. Besides your parents' money, Sun Peng transferred $320,000 to you since the year before last via your mum's card. You thought I wouldn't be able to trace it. This money is proof of your affair with her, and I will submit it in court. As I spoke, Zhou Rui paled. I kept turning pages, and the screen played photos of Sun Peng and her outside various hotels. Or photos of them hugging and kissing in the residential parking lot, with the time and location clearly marked. Thirdly, marital infidelity and maintaining long-term affairs. This evidence is conclusive, but the most important point is you. Zhou Rui, together with Sun Peng, maliciously framed and falsely accused me, intending to have me imprisoned so they could seize all my assets. This isn't just infidelity, this is a crime. There were also some screenshots of WeChat chat records attached.
My husband is suspicious lately. Any advice?
What are you afraid of? Just stick to the plan. Once he's locked up, you and Annan will both be mine.
Will he really believe that 2 million yuan deposit slip?
All you have to do is insist that you saw it with your own eyes. The authorities would rather arrest the wrong person than let someone go. As long as he's taken into custody, we've won. These are all the last straws that will break him. Zhou Rui, watching those ugly conversations between him and Sun Peng on the TV screen, he finally broke down.
No, it's not like that. He forced me. Sun Peng forced me to do it. He said he loved me. He said you would treat me worse and worse. He said only he could give me happiness. Reporting you was also his idea. He said as long as you went down, we could be together forever.
He pushed all the responsibility away, completely clean. Even at this moment, he was still acting. I turned off the TV and the living room returned to silence. I stood up and took out the documents I had already printed from the study. I threw 2 copies onto the coffee table in front of him. One was the divorce agreement. The other was a statement of voluntary renunciation of property. Sign them. If you sign, we'll go to the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow and separate peacefully. I won't pursue anything further. As for the criminal responsibility for your false accusations, I'm also giving you one last bit of dignity, letting you leave with nothing but the clothes on your back. That's all. If you don't sign sign all this evidence, including Anand's paternity test report. I'll print 100 copies and send one to the court. The rest will be given to your parents and my parents. To all our relatives from both families, and also to our workplaces, Sun Peng's workplace as well. I will make sure everyone knows what kind of woman you, Zhou Rui, are, and what kind of man Sun Peng is. By then, what you lose won't just be money and the house, it will be your entire life. Your entire dignity. Zhou Rui looked from the documents to me, his eyes shifting from resentment to pleading, then utter despair. The next day, I rose early. Zhou Rui hadn't slept, sitting motionless on the sofa all night. The untouched documents remained. I didn't urge him. After dressing for my busy day, I glanced at him. Think it over today. I need your signature tomorrow morning. Then I left. I didn't go to the office, but instead drove straight to... I found the city's top law firm online during those 7 days. There, I met Zhang Chengye, a renowned marriage lawyer. He was in his 40s, wore gold-rimmed glasses, and looked very capable. Lawyer Zhang and I shook hands, took our seats as host and guest, and I didn't waste any words. I took a USB drive out of my briefcase and placed it in front of him. Lawyer Zhang, I want a divorce. All the evidence is in here. Lawyer Zhang nodded and took the USB drive. Plugging in the USB, he opened the folder and scanned the files, from paternity reports to assets. As he saw the unbearable photos and chats, his calm face shifted to surprise, then grave seriousness. He examined everything carefully for a full half hour. After finishing, he took off his glasses and rubbed his brow.
Mr. Zhao, to be honest, I have handled hundreds of divorce cases, but you are the first whose evidence is so devastatingly thorough. These pieces of evidence are enough to leave your wife completely defenseless in court. It's certain that she'll leave with nothing.
I'll entrust this to you. First, I want a quick divorce. Second, she gets nothing. Third, she must have custody of Anand. I don't want to have any further involvement with this child.
No problem. Legally, since the child is not biologically yours, you have no obligation for custody or support. As for the assets, the other party is at major fault and has attempted to maliciously transfer and seize your assets. Your premarital assets are absolutely safe, and the division of marital assets will also be completely in your favor.
Alright, we've agreed on the agency fee and signed the contract. As I was about to leave, I asked him one last thing. One question, Lawyer Zhang, from a legal perspective. Is there anything else I can do to that man? Lawyer Zhang paused for a moment.
If it's adultery, legal punishment is difficult, but if you have proof he orchestrated the false accusations and framing against you, you can pursue his criminal liability. However, from the chat records you provided, they are very cunning. A lot of it is just verbal agreements. It's very difficult to form a complete chain of evidence, especially compared to pursuing a criminal case. It might be more direct and effective to target his workplace and reputation.
These words are exactly what I was thinking. They're exactly the same as my thoughts. I understand now. Thank you, Lawyer Zhang. I walked out of the law firm. It felt like half the weight in my heart had been lifted. The legal weapon for revenge was already prepared. Next, it was time for another front. I stood by the roadside, took out my phone, and instead of calling Zhou Rui, I dialed my workplace. Director Zhang. The call was quickly connected.
Xiao Zhao, how have you been resting?
Thanks for your concern, Director Zhang. I've recovered well and would like to return to work as soon as it's convenient. After a brief pause, he replied with a smile.
All right. You're welcome anytime. I've always had Xiao Li keep your office ready. He cleans it every day for you.
Thank you, Director Zhang. Also, about the meeting you mentioned last time to restore my reputation.
Oh, right. Do you think it should be a small, private meeting or...
Director Zhang, I think it can be a bit bigger. Looking at the endless stream of cars on the street, my gaze grew sharp. The bigger, the better. Every mid-level bureau official should attend. After all, this has caused quite a stir. I want my innocence made public. I want more than a divorce. I'm reclaiming what's mine. Reputation, status, and justice. I'll have it all back. The next morning, when I walked out of the guest room, Zhou Rui was still sitting on the sofa, unmoved all night. In front of him were those 2 documents. The last page of the divorce agreement had already been signed with his name, the handwriting crooked, as if he had used up all his strength. I walked over, picked up the documents, and checked them over.
The waiver statement is also signed.
His voice was hoarse, like a piece of paper being rubbed against me. I picked up another document and saw his signature and fingerprint. It was fine. Briefcase packed, ID, registry, and marriage papers ready by 9. Civil Affairs Bureau. He saw me, but looked away. He turned around and prepared to leave.
Zhao He
He called out to me from behind.
and Anne, is she really Sun Peng's daughter?
There was actually a hint of doubt and accusation in his voice. I almost burst out laughing. Even at this point, he was still clinging to illusions. Or perhaps he was trying to find himself an excuse to prove that he hadn't been deceiving me from the very beginning. As for that question, you should go ask Sun Peng. I stepped outside into the bright sun. I drove to work, arriving at 8:30. Colleagues in the hall gave me complex looks, sympathy, curiosity, and distance. I simply ignored it all. I headed to my office. I unlocked the door. It was spotless. Zhang didn't lie. Xiaoli cleaned the office daily. I turned on my computer and began clearing emails. At 9:30, his secretary knocked.
Zhao, the director wants you in the large conference room.
I stood, straightened my collar, and followed. I pushed open the conference room door. Director Zhang sat at the head of the table. Seeing me, he waved me over.
Come on, Zhao Yi, sit here.
He pointed to the seat next to him. I walked over and sat down. I could feel it. I could feel countless eyes behind me, like searchlights shining on my back. I could also see it. In the corner of the conference room sat Sun Peng, his head lowered, not daring to look up. My whole demeanor was completely different from the day I was taken away. That day, I felt like a new person. The meeting started without small talk. Director Zhang. He spoke briefly on the importance of discipline and work style internally, then changed the subject.
Some time ago, something happened in our unit. Our comrade Zhao Yi was reported by name. The report accused him of economic issues.
The conference room fell completely silent.
The Municipal Discipline Inspection Commission attached great importance to this and set up a special investigation team. A 3-month-long investigation was conducted on Comrade Zhao Yi.
Director Zhang's voice was very serious.
The reason for gathering everyone here today is to officially announce the findings of this investigation. Investigation proved the bribery charges against Zhao Yi were fabricated and baseless. The Discipline Commission's official document now clarifies the facts and restores his reputation.
He put down the document and looked at me.
Here, on behalf of the Bureau's leadership team, I would like to say to Comrade Zhao Yi, we deeply apologize for not protecting our cadre well enough and letting you suffer such injustice.
After speaking, he stood up and gave me a deep bow in front of everyone. There was an uproar. Director Zhang, this isn't your fault, nor the unit's. I immediately stood up. I helped him up as Director Zhang straightened and grasped my hand.
A good comrade indeed.
He turned to address everyone in the room.
Comrade Zhao Yi is a key member of our unit. For 15 years, he has worked diligently and with integrity. This incident has affected him personally and his family as well. It has caused tremendous harm to both. I hope everyone in our bureau will take this as a warning. At the same time, we must firmly support and trust him. Our comrades should not be misled by rumors.
Applause broke out, scattered and light at first. Then it grew enthusiastic. I saw that many colleagues' looks toward me changed from sympathy to admiration. At that moment, my reputation was restored and polished anew. Director Zhang asked me to say a few words, so I walked up to the microphone. Looking out at the dense crowd below the stage, my gaze finally landed on Sun Peng's pale face. Our eyes met in the air for a second, and he looked as if he had been burned. He quickly lowered his head just like that. I picked up the microphone, my voice clear and steady. I appreciate the organization's trust and the leader's concern. Over these 3 months, I've thought a lot. As a 15-year veteran here, I've always believed that a straight tree fears no crooked shadow. I trust the organization and the law to provide justice. Today, it has arrived. I'm fine, but some things can't be ignored, I said coldly. False framing targets us all, the entire cadre. Provoking me tramples our discipline. As for those hiding in the shadows, using vile means to ruin lives. I paused, gazing sharply. Once again, I glanced at Sun Peng. He bowed lower, his shoulders shaking. I hope the organization fully investigates this and shows no leniency. I bowed deeply to my colleagues, and the room erupted in applause. This time, the applause was truly heartfelt. After the meeting ended, my world became peaceful again as I walked through the corridors of the office. Everyone I met would take the initiative to greet me.
Chief Zhao's back. Chief Zhao, it's been tough.
Their faces showed just the right amount of concern and warmth. It was as if those 3 months of isolation and suspicion had never happened. I responded to each of them, my expression calm. As soon as I returned to my office and sat down, my phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number, and I answered it. Zhao Yi, I'm at the tea house across from the office. Let's talk. It was Sun Peng. His voice was filled with exhaustion and fear. There's nothing for us to talk about. No, there is. I'm begging you, just 10 minutes. His voice was choked with tears. Fine. I hung up the phone. I got up and walked downstairs at an unhurried pace. There weren't many people in the tea house. Sun Peng had chosen the most secluded corner. In the booth, his expression was incredibly conflicted when he saw me. I sat down, poured a cup of tea, and simply said, "Go ahead, Chief Zhao." He stammered incoherently. I heard everything at the meeting today. I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Suddenly, with a thud, he slipped from his seat and tried to kneel before me. I leaned back, saying, "Just say what you need to. Don't pull this stunt." Sun Peng hurriedly sat back properly. Regarding Zhao Kei's report, it wasn't my idea. It was Zhou Rui's. My sister-in-law insisted on it, saying only if you went in would she be free. She's just copying Zhou Rui now, blaming others. I quietly watched her without saying a word. My silence made her even more afraid. Really, I swear, I tried to talk her out of it. I said doing this was too risky, too immoral, but he wouldn't listen. He was dead set on getting you. He raised his hand as if to swear to the heavens, right? I took my phone out of my briefcase, but I didn't unlock it. I just turned the screen toward him, showing the standby display. It was a photo I had just set up. It showed him and Zhou Rui downstairs at that rental apartment. A photo of them hugging and kissing, which I took from a video a friend gave me. I captured it in high definition, very clear. Sun Peng's eyes were fixed on the phone screen and the color drained from his face. It faded even more completely than it had in the conference room. His lips trembled. He wanted to say something but couldn't make a sound. Do you want me to show you something else, like your chat records, about how to set me up, how to transfer assets, how to make your so-called cousin-in-law leave with nothing, and a plan to expose Laodi and Zuochuan? Sun Peng, his body began to tremble violently. Sweat. Large beads of sweat were streaming down from his forehead. Or should we talk about Anan? I threw out my final heavy blow. You like him a lot, don't you? Every time you came to my house, you always bought him the most expensive toys. On the day he was born, you were even more excited than I was. You were even more excited. I'm really curious. What exactly is your relationship to my daughter that makes you care about her so much? Stop it. Sun Peng finally broke down. He held his head in his hands, his body racked with pain. Please stop talking. I put away my phone and took a sip of tea. The tea had already gone cold. Sun Peng, we're brothers. I always thought you were my friend, my family. My voice was soft, but every word struck his heart like a heavy hammer. You destroyed my 15-year marriage, destroyed all my trust in family, and now you want to destroy me too. My whole life, Xiaoyi, I'm less than human, worse than an animal. He lifted his head, his face streaked with tears. I leaned forward, getting close to him, and said in a voice only the two of us could hear, now there are two paths. First, I will hand over all the evidence to the Discipline Inspection Commission, and also to you, a unit leader falsely accusing and framing a state official. You know exactly what crime that is, and your fate will be 100 times worse than mine. Second, before dawn tomorrow, you voluntarily submit your resignation to the unit. Then write a detailed confession, describing exactly how you and Zhou Rui conspired, and how you planned this whole thing, step by step. Write down the entire process truthfully, and sign your name. Hand the signed confession to me. Once you've done these two things, you can get out, leave this city, and never show your face in front of me again. I'll keep your confession as a backup. Sun Peng slumped in his seat, looking utterly defeated. He knew he had no choice, compared to total disgrace. Avoiding prison and leaving with some dignity was the only thing he could cling to. His last straw. After leaving the tea house, I glanced at the time. It was 8:50, 10 minutes before the appointed time. I drove at a steady pace toward the Civil Affairs Bureau. After parking the car, I walked to the entrance. Zhou Rui was already waiting there. He was wearing a grey trench coat, his hair casually tied up. His face was bare, without makeup, pale and haggard. He was holding a cloth bag in his hand, inside of which were all the documents we would need today. When he saw me, his eyes darted away for a moment, and he didn't say anything. I couldn't be bothered to speak either. We walked in one after the other, just like two strangers waiting in line to get things done, taking a number, lining up, and waiting. The whole process was silent and still, surrounded by couples coming and going. Some people were there joyfully to get their marriage certificates, while others looked miserable as they handled their paperwork. Our silence seemed especially out of place in such an environment. Finally, our number was called, and we walked up to the counter and sat down.
Are you both divorcing of your own free will?
Yes.
Have you settled the division of property? What about the issue of child custody?
Everything has been settled and clearly written in the agreement, Mom. She picked up our divorce agreement and quickly skimmed through it. Seeing the woman forfeited all assets, kept sole custody, and required no child support, she glanced at Zhou Rui in surprise. Zhou Rui lowered her head further. She asked no more, as it was a private family matter.
Shall we fill it out?
We each filled out the forms in silence. I wrote quickly, name, Zhao Yi, ethnicity Han. In the section for the reason for divorce, I wrote, irreconcilable differences, preserving his dignity. After photos, as the seal slammed onto the divorce papers, Zhou Rui trembled. It was over.
All right.
I pick up what belongs to me. She stood up, turned around, and left without saying goodbye as she walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau. Sunlight blinded at the gate, and I felt relieved. Zhou Rui followed, carrying the heavy gold.
Zhao Yi.
I stopped and looked back at him. This was our last conversation as husband and wife.
Can I go back and pack up my things and Anand's things? Is that okay?
You have 2 hours. I'll wait downstairs. Staying outside, I leaned on the car and lit a cigarette. My first in 3 months. The smoke, everything swirled. Yet my mind was clear. Within an hour, Zhou Rui appeared dragging 2 large suitcases. An An followed, timidly clutching his shirt. She looked at me, eyes red, clearly crying. I stubbed out my cigarette, walked over, and handed him the keys. The car is in his name, but I paid for it. In the agreement, it's specified.